So one quick thing transpired on the break, and it reminded me of something I didn't say. So for our charities with our silent auction out there, first of all, whatever we wind up raising, I match. So it will double. And second, I thought, well, and although he would probably prefer not to be recognized, but Jay Geyer is pledged, without taking any of the stuff, $10,000 as long as you all hit $10,000 by the end of the day on Friday. So if collectively you hit 10, he will give 10. Okay? And we split it, by the way, 50-50 with the two charities. And Jay has generously supported them in the past as well. In fact, we have the nice certificates that you gave me when you made those donations framed and up in my office to sort of help people understand when they're there. So I am on your hijack 11, and this is not a page in your book, so I'm just talking. But so rituals, again, kind of underused in a lot of businesses. I early on saw it. So in a sort of a combination of a personal growth and get rich, some Trump you aspects to it, business, Vicky's uncle. So it was all ritual driven. Every weekend for a number of years, we had 500 to 1,000 people in a room for 3 days. Basic course was $5,000 in 1979. And you went up a ladder. So, for example, everybody used green pens. You weren't allowed to write with anything but a green pen because green is the color of money. So we drove a lot of green flares being sold. Hard to buy them today, just a box of them. You got to special order them. They got them in packs, and you get one green and one red and one yellow and one purple. But at the time, you could go to the office store and buy a box of green flares. So everybody wrote with green pens. Everybody backed their car. You parked by backing your car in. You never pulled your car into a parking space. And if you did, you got chewed out because you always want to start every journey going forward, not going backward. So every ritual has a reason. Everybody had to take notes at every meeting with carbon paper. Google it. Well, I had, Dave, Brittany's last name, Lynch. So some of you know Brittany. She was in Titanium for a couple of years. And I'm like doing this every 10 minutes because I can see, it's only 16 people in a horseshoe. I can see the blank look on her face. And it's not because she's stupid. It's because I made some reference that predates her existence on Earth, like carbon paper. But everybody had to take their notes with carbon paper and turn their notes in, and they had to write big. You don't write small because you don't want to think small. We actually gave awards for the biggest writing. So there were all these rituals. Everybody had to carry $100 bills. If you got caught without a $100 bill, you got yelled at. You're supposed to leave the house every morning with hundreds. So there were these rituals. And like other repetitious behavior, if you can get people, obviously every religion has this, whatever religion you are a part of, every religion has this. If you can get people performing these rituals, it is easier to get them to do other things you want them to do because you've already established a pattern of behavior. You also create pain and disconnect, by the way, because it's emotional. It's not actual, but because if they're performing these rituals every day, they are less likely to leave you than if they are not. Symbols, number 12. So I just saw it. I meant to tear it out. There's a book about Trump. Damn, it's not a flattering book either. Somebody just sent it. Well, most of them aren't, but somebody sent it to me. But anyway, there's pictures in the middle. There's 8 or 10 glossy pages with photographs on them, and one of them is a very young Trump getting his first Cadillac. Now, many of you are old enough to know, probably post-World War II all the way into 1970s, the symbol that you had arrived. See, Cadillac lost this. Doesn't mean anything today. But it meant something then. The symbol that you had arrived, particularly for salesmen, was a Cadillac. And everybody knew it. And everybody understood it. And a ton of Cadillacs were sold because of their symbolic meaning, not because of what they were. My fight with James, with Vicky's uncle, was I hated him. So I had Lincolns, town cars, and I'm the only one because everybody else has got a Cadillac because he came up with this. This is how Cadillac meant something to him, and a Lincoln meant nothing. And I mean, we had like daily arguments about me trading in this car and getting a Cadillac because you're supposed to have a Cadillac. So when things have symbolic value to the owner and in a community of owners, that can be pretty powerful. When you see a building, the architecture of which is Roman columns, what does that normally symbolize? Culture, knowledge, the law, and power. That's exactly right. Hence, the first time around, what did Obama's nomination and acceptance speech look like? He was Roman columns behind him. I presume Trump is going to have gold-plated Roman, God knows, He is trying to switch to the Brown Stadium in Cleveland to have 15,000, 20,000 more people there than at the convention center. So I imagine he can land the helicopter and, it'll be a big to-do, I imagine. But so this book, when it came out, it's since been copied. But how many of you have read The Game by Neil Strauss? Okay, if you haven't, make a note. Women, you'll be offended. Doesn't matter. It's well worth reading. But when this book came out, he was like the first guy to do this. It's leather bound. Well, what does it look like? I don't need to tell you what it looks like. It's got gold edges. It's gold embossed, and it's got a red doohickey to mark your pages. What does it instantly look like to everybody? The Bible. That's right. Okay? This is a book, by the way, about how to pick up women and get laid. That's what this is. Okay? So it's a fairly offensive appropriation to many people. Very deliberate, though, because this is all symbolism, right? Of profound importance, of being the Bible of something. In this case, the Bible of how to pick up women. Okay? By the way, again, worth reading because there's a lot of this stuff in there. It's since been, Frank Green ripped it off and did it for a book he did with some rap criminal guy. Oh, yeah, 50 Cent. Thank you. 50 Cent. He did the exact same thing. 50 Cent. I've always thought it was kind of, why not name yourself 50 bucks? You know, at least. Why do you want to, if you're going to name yourself, why do you want to be 50 cents? I mean, at least it wasn't a nickel, but, you know. Who paid you in all those nickels? Every one of them. Old joke. So symbolism matters. I'm all the way over now on your page 34, for those of you that are trailing along. Showmanship and optics. So Trump's really good at both of them. Deaver, who used to work for Reagan, was really good at optics. So first of all, with showmanship, there's something to be said for spectacle. Right? People, so one of the things to remember about both of these things, optics and showmanship, is what I call, what does it say with the sound turned off? So this, by the way, is one of the ways we always look at video, at infomercials, is no sound. What impression do you get? Right? Because most people, much of the time, they don't really hear what's being said. They certainly don't understand what's being said. So it is less about what is being said than the impression they get by what they see. Hence things like what car you arrive in, whether there's Roman columns or not Roman columns. All this stuff matters because it often is the way people actually judge your importance, your significance, your relevance, your relative power, all of that. So like we just had a quick conversation. Where's the optometrist guy from England? Where are you? I'll beat up on you. Where are you? There he is. Okay. So guy in the back there next to David Klaus, next to the weird-looking guy. Right? It's like Duck Dynasty guy, down out of the mountains briefly for the event. He will then retreat and hide. The guy next to him. By the way, Duck Dynasty, I mean, think about it. Spectacle, optics, camouflage, I mean, you know. So he just launched an info marketing business aimed at optometrists in England. And to his initial lead generation, he only got a 0.5% response, which, by the way, is not awful, except that there's only 1,000 of them, so now it's not so good. And he came up with copy, you know, where you take a look and see, and I didn't because it doesn't matter because of what he did. Okay? So what he did is he sent a postcard. Well, I got to tell you, doesn't seem very important to me. I mean, there's a time and a place for postcards, but we're going to launch ourselves as the expert in the profession of building up optometrist practices, and we're going to send a postcard, right? First of all, every gatekeeper can throw it out with impunity, for starters. But second of all, forget what's on it. The very fact that that's what you sent to represent you to this marketplace, what can I easily deduce by that? This isn't very important, and you're a midget. That's what I can easily deduce by that. Right? You might be small time. You're doing about the cheapest thing you can possibly do, and it can't be very important. That's what I can deduce from that. And it doesn't matter what it says, because in most cases, nobody's going to get there. So it can say, Royal Bank of England, free gold bullion this week, come on down, and a bunch of people aren't going to show up because they're never going to get there. Right? So, now, better to make a spectacle, especially since there's only 1,000 of them. And there's high value. I want to send, you know, Craig's magic box with his book in it and his golden ticket in it and his stuff. And I want it sealed. And, you know, you got to break this seal. And I want it inside another box that they won't throw out. And official labels all over it. And, I mean, so how you look, how you show up matters. There's an article on, well, I don't know, it's quick. I don't have a page number, but it's, oh, here it is. It's on page 35. There's 2 articles for you. This is one of them. And this is about now, so the whole article's in there. This is about how people assimilate, process, and react to photos, right? And they've done all this research and so forth. So literally just, are you in the center of the picture or are you off to one side of the picture? Now it makes a difference. It makes a measurable difference. So the optics of things with the sound turned off. So if you go back and you watch Trump's original announcement, and if you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube, you ought to find it. Right? It's in Trump Tower. There's a gathering, a gaggle of reporters and people at the bottom. If you've ever been to Trump Tower, you walk in on the ground floor, but there's really nothing much there, except I think a big fountain, if I'm not mistaken. And then from 3 floors up, ultimately, and they put a stage for him to stand on, okay, and some flags. But 3 floors, by the way, you never see, watch him, you never see 2 American flags. There's like 20 of them. You never see 2. Watch a bunch of other candidates. There's 1 at each end. That ain't accident. It ain't like, oh shit, we got a lot of flags, let's use them. I mean, that's somebody saying, So when you go look at this announcement deal, late, of course, but not horribly late, down from on high come the king and queen on the gold escalator underneath the gigantic row of chandeliers. Down they come ever so slowly. The escalator is at the slowest speed you can set it on as they descend from the heavens and ultimately then come over and get up on stage and talk to the gathered multitudes. It's like the Wizard of Id leaning out of his little window at the top of the castle, you know, to talk to the peons beneath. Right? And of course, people in the media criticized it, but watch it with the sound off and tell me the impression, you get the exact impression I just described. Right? And by the way, Americans want royalty. Don't ever think we don't. You know, we'd sign up for a hot second, you know, if they'd let us share the queen. I mean, we want it. So he's as close to, this is JFK and Jackie. That's what this is, for those of you that have that reference. This is, if you go also find the Barbara Walters in his office special episode, if you go find that and you have any frame of reference, all the kids are in there and the grandkid, the little barons running around. Right? There's a still right in the middle of it that matches a photo of JFK and Jackie in the office with the kids running around. I mean, it's like identical. And it ain't accidental. It's not accidental. These people are figuring all this out. So optics matter a lot. I learned, so like I don't fly commercial anymore, but when I did, most of the time, just like many of you probably did, if we're having a super conference or we're having an info summit or something, there's an airport shuttle. You know, you can walk out, get on the shuttle, come over to the hotel. I never did it. I always had a car and a driver, even if it's like 5 minutes. That ain't because I'm above an airport shuttle. It's because I can't be seen arriving on the airport shuttle. The optics are bad. Right? I mean, there's purpose, but I actually can, in most hotels, after I've done it 3 or 4 times, I can find my way to the room. You never see me going alone. Vicky's always there, clipboard, marching along as I go to my, it's optics. It's what does that say with the sound turned off, right? So it's not, I mean, I'm capable and I don't really mind finding my room on my own. Occasionally I prefer it, but it's about the impression that it all makes. Disney has, and they explained it the last time so Dr. Angelos, Nancy, you were with us. I forget who else. Burleson, were you? You, Greg, yeah. So we had lunch with an Imagineer, which, by the way, if you haven't done it, it's a very cool thing to do, and you don't need a business group. In fact, they'd rather it wasn't. They like a family of like 8. And the Imagineer does a little talk, and then you can ask questions, and they'll give you straight answers to about half of the stuff. Just depends on what you ask. But she was really good this time of explaining that they're taught to look at everything 3 times, wide shot, medium shot, close-up. So the corner of that building over there, you're supposed to look at, what does it look like as a wide shot? What does it look like as a medium shot? And what does it look like as a close-up shot? Everything. Everything. Because they understand optics matters enormously. Right? So this, whatever it is you're doing, what is it like with the sound off? Matters a lot. Because in many cases, that's what's going to stick, not what you said. That's what's going to stick. So there's famous single picture. Single image destroys somebody, or nearly destroys them. Dukakis. Doomed to start with, but how many remember the image on the tank, right? With the helmet, that's too big for him, like a kid, flopping down on his nose. He's on a tank, for God's sakes. Really? I mean, it was like over. He admits it today. I've seen him in an interview. He says, that was it, right? First of all, it made him look goofy. Secondly, it reminded a lot of people of Jane Fonda sitting on a tank, a very unpopular image amongst veterans. And it was like over, right? Now, it doesn't matter if he was saying something, what he was saying, what the point was, doesn't matter. John Kerry windsurfing in the goofy bicycle pants, right? I mean, this guy's going to be your president? Really? Bad, bad optics. Not quite as bad as going to Philadelphia and asking if he could have brie on his cheesesteak, but just, you know, the image, you know. So it's important to think these things through. So I'm on 37. Let's talk a little bit about visual demo. Again, the picture, the imagery, is as important or more important than anything else. Right? So it's back in the news again. Who remembers? That's exactly right. If the glove doesn't fit, you must, better word, and the word was must. I mean, words do matter. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. Now, here's how stupid that is. I happen to think he's innocent, by the way. So, but here's how stupid that. I'm like the only white guy. It's just me, right? So, here's how stupid this is. First of all, this one doesn't fit. But I mean, you can get it on long enough to stab somebody. You really don't even need to have it all the way on to stab somebody. So if somehow you manage to buy a knife the right size and a glove the wrong size, I mean, you could still get the job done, right? Secondly, if you watch the trial, first of all, they had him put on a latex, like a doctor glove, a disposable medical glove, to protect the evidence. Okay? Well, I thickened my hand. The glove had a furry kind of lining. The latex actually sticks against it. It even does this glove. I tried it. If you put a latex glove on, it's even worse because it sticks against the glove, right? And Dershowitz will tell you now, they told him, spread your fingers when you go to force it on, right? So if I put my fingers real close together, I can get this baby on. If I do this, it's much harder, right? So logically, of course, it makes no sense. But it's pretty powerful because it's a great demo. And then when you match it with a command, which he did, said 3 times, by the way, important. And the word must, no kidding, important. Much more powerful than have to. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. They went into the jury room with that. And now, prosecutor, it doesn't matter what the prosecutor said. So demos are pretty powerful. It may or may not disappoint you to know that most demos are rigged. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Also, good demos have at least some of these ingredients. This, by the way, is all the way to page 76. You do have it. You don't need to go there right now. We will get there again, but this is in your manual. So powerful analogy. Okay? People think in terms of X is like Y. That helps them get it, right? So if you think about the glove demo, putting on a glove, what I do with it now, putting on a glove is a familiar experience. Almost everybody wears them at some point. Okay? If you live in a warm place that never has winter, you probably visit somebody. Okay? And most people have had the experience of trying to put on a glove that's a little snug. Okay? So it fits this using something very familiar in a demonstration to make a point, right? It spotlit the similarities. If this evidence doesn't fit, maybe none of the evidence fits. And it obscured the differences. It blew out facts in favor of a single dramatic thing held in the memory. Right? Are they really going to remember much of the DNA expert on the stand and his 50 minutes of Q&A testimony the next day, or are they going to remember that? They're going to remember that. Right? It telegraphed the whole story. Story is, cops corrupt, all the evidence is rigged. proves that story. It's supported, resonates emotionally, supported at least some of the jury's pre-existing feelings. Not a lot of warm feelings in LA for the LAPD, particularly at that point in time. Easy willingness to believe cops rigging this supports that. And last, it's hard to argue. It looks right. It seems right. So it fits the analogy criteria, and good demos often are really giant analogies acted out. That's what they are. So Tony's Firewalk. How many of you have done the Firewalk? Raise your hands. Now you learn more looking around than you do looking at me. Okay. Everybody know about the Firewalk, right? Everybody knows the gig, right? So I, for years, have said that it's a circus trick from the 1930s, which it is, by the way. Okay? It was regularly done on the carnival circuit in the 1930s, mostly by a firewalker. I mean, it is easier to run it as a trick when it's just you doing it than when you're getting everybody to do it. But it's still a complete trick. And it's easier to do the trick now than it was in 1930 because chemistry has evolved. The technology has evolved. There's more ways to make something seem burning hot that is not burning hot. But I am wrong. In doing the research for this, I have now traced it all the way back to 1907. There is a book. By the way, that book you sent me, we bought everything in the bibliography. Yeah, bought every single book. All